Okay, I get asked this question a lot, and I thought it was time to answer it. But if I'm honest with you, the title of the video is a little bit of a lie. And I say that because in reality, I think I've got joint favourites. Um, One of my two favourites is my Dale Wilson Strat. But if you held a gun to my head or you asked me to perform live, and I don't know which one would kill my YouTube career more quickly, I'd have to pick this one. So look, whilst I'm a believer that there is the right guitar for the right job, I'm no session musician, and although I've clearly taken it to heart, judging by what I've got in this room, I tend to play one of a few guitars for long periods of time. And in the most recent time that I can remember, since I got this guitar, the Gold Geo is never far from my hands, to be honest with you, or the Dale Wilson Strat. But, you know, I think the Gold Geo just about wins out. In this video, I want to tell you why. There's a few reasons for it. First of all, I'm a strong believer that you sort of buy a guitar with your eyes. I think we all learnt that during all those lockdowns when a lot of us bought quite a few guitars just based on looks. And, you know, I'm probably ashamed to say a few guitars that should have been returned never were. However, when I saw the picture of this guitar that had been built by Nico Giordano, it was sent to me by my mate Stuart, who makes the pickups that are actually in this guitar. And I knew that it was going to go off to a big guitar show in Europe. I had to get in touch with him. I already owned one of his guitars, which is also gorgeous. And I had to say, look, take it to the show, but I want that guitar. So yeah, I had to nab that one. So I definitely bought it with my eyes. Actually, someone who watches the channel came round about just over a year ago for me to try their Two Rock Vintage Deluxe in the different power than the one I was borrowing at the time from Coda. And they brought with them a couple of spectacular guitars. And I did actually take some shots and do some filming, but I never managed to use it. And they brought an original all gold top, and I fell in love with it. And I didn't really have it in my mind that I was going to buy one at some point. You know, Gibson, I don't know if Gibson actually released those or re-released those ever. I'm sure they've done a run in the past. But when I saw this, it just felt like fate that Nico told me that he'd come up with the sort of spec of his dreams, which was the all gold with the trapeze bridge and yeah, obviously two P90s, and that he'd like put all his soul into this guitar. And he was sad to see it go. I mean, he's probably sad to see all the guitars go, but I'm sure there is the odd one that really he wants to keep. Now, I was fairly certain that I would love this guitar because I'd played a recent 58 Tributo of his that belongs to Stuart that is spectacular. And I've watched Nico go from a fantastic young maker to, like, honestly, I would trust every single guitar that he makes without playing it. Anyway, just look at this thing. The color is spectacular. The aging that he does, what I love, and I've said this before, he does the ugly aging in the best way, right? There is the proper scrapes and chips and dings. And I mean, it's hilarious. I saw an Instagram recently, which was sort of taking aim at people like us who like heavy relics. And it was a guy with his guitar and he was just like jabbing it with his audio cable, right? When he's sitting down to play, he's like, and he just bashes it like 30 times. Because obviously all those heavy relic strats always look like someone who's probably blind as taken their jack cable and just smashed it everywhere. And it's like, how many 52 gold tops would look like this? I'm sure so many of them were prized possessions. But also, I'm sure there are a few out there that people just treated as, you know, part of their own body. It just went with them. And that's what this guitar makes me feel like. And if you don't like heavy relicking, that's fine. I doubt you'll keep that to yourself. So that's cool. Okay, but look, for me, the reason I love this guitar the most is that it looks fantastic. And you just sometimes the visual, you jive with it and it just makes you feel inspired. But then when I got the guitar and I strummed it, even acoustically, and it just blew my socks off. That trapezoid bridge is a thing of beauty. I know that those are expensive to get that assembly, maybe like $600 or something. I want to say they're from Mojo something. But God, it makes a difference. It adds an almost acoustic quality to the sound, and I don't know how much is the guitar or the bridge, but it just exudes this sort of like big sound to it. But actually, one of the main reasons why I would pick this over the Strat is this can do a much better interpretation or mimicking of a Strat sound than a Strat can do of a bitey P90 sound. So, that neck P90 has the sort of thick, juicy sound of a Strat neck pickup. It pretty much, right? It is a little bit different. But, putting the FUZZ, the Univibe into a Marshall, you get that similar feeling. There's a bounce to it. There's that single coil feel. And so I could definitely play my more sort of Stratty, Hendrixy vibed stuff on the P90. But, that's half of my playing. I mean, I'm not multi-dimensional, but I am two-dimensional, right? I've got my Jimi Hendrixy fuzzy stuff, and I've then got this sort of more Americana-y, bitey stuff that I love. Think of like the Delta Cream album from the Black Keys or Junior Kimbra or, that sort of stuff. And the P90s, yeah, they do that so well. The bridge pickup on a 2P90 guitar is just much more usable than the bridge pickup on a Strat, I find. I barely ever use the bridge pickup on the Strat unless I'm in the thickest fuzzy sound. Whereas that P90 in the bridge just is glorious. And also in the middle position, right? You get the thickness with the bite. And I mean, it's another thing is P90s can be quite noisy, but they do work really well with fuzzes. I mean, every pickup type can work well with fuzzes, but a bit like a Strat single coil, P90s just really particularly, they clean up nicely, they work really, really well with that. So considering I use fuzz a lot, I enjoy that. So I don't generally ask people to subscribe to the channel that often. Sometimes I ask for you to give a thumbs up, which I really appreciate. A lot of people do give a thumbs up, and that really G's me on to make the next video. But you know, my subscriber count has grown quite slowly, really. I've been doing this for 5 years, and yeah, I'd love to grow it a bit more. And the reason is because I'm taking my guitar making a lot more seriously. And whilst I eventually want to transition into doing some videos in my workshop, I'm not ready for that yet. So to take time out of the workshop to come and make a YouTube video, although I enjoy doing it, is tough because I really want to push on with my prototyping and the guitars that I'm making for paying customers at the moment. So yeah, if you watch regularly and you don't subscribe, I'd love it if you did. If I could see that number grow a bit more, it just gives me a bit more encouragement, I guess, to make more stuff on YouTube, and also to approach people to borrow gear from companies and things, to diversify the channel, to have more stuff on here that I don't necessarily need to buy. That would be great. So yeah, if you could do that, I'd be well, I'd much appreciate it. All right, let's crack on. But then, like I think you heard earlier in the video, something like the Vemiram Shanks, which is a Noble's ODR1 type, that really gives it that lovely, creamy overdrive sound, which with a Strat, I just don't really love that. Whereas with this, it gives you a whole other facet of sound compared to the sort of more fuzzy or univibey type of stuff. Another thing I love about this guitar is it's not a classic Les Paul shape. And I was very strongly purist about wanting only the original Les Paul shape. So the other Nico guitar, the other Giordano guitar I've got is this Black Beauty, which is when Nico was making, except for the headstock, he was making Les Paul shapes. But you know, once you reach a certain level of success, then Gibson might come knocking, and so you have to come up with your own. And I've not loved most reinterpretations of the single cut shape, to be honest with you. There's just something that doesn't work for a lot of the ones that I see. But as soon as I saw Nico's one, I knew that he'd absolutely done it the way that if I was designing and I could have the design creativity like him to get it, this is how I'd want it to be shaped. It doesn't put me off in the slightest. It makes me just feel like it's a great, cool old guitar. I barely notice the difference in shape. And actually, something about it feels super comfortable, even more than a Les Paul. And I love the neck on this. It's not massive. It's not the biggest 58 type of neck. It's a little bit shallower. It's a little bit skinnier, but it's not a skinny neck. It's not like an early 60s SG. It doesn't cut into your hand. It's still definitely a round shape, but it's just not massive, which allows me to use my thumb over the top. So there's that. Yeah. Let's hear a bit more. So for those of you interested, today I'm using the 1966 Marshall JTM 45 that I've got here. P90s, I think, work really well for that sort of crunchy Marshall sort of sound, with a little bit of sort of riffing going on. Yeah, this guitar allows me to explore that more than a Strat would. That's another reason, you know, I can let loose with it and I don't feel like I'm just boxed into what I consider to be the Strat thing. So look, over a lifetime, someone's favourite guitar probably changes quite a few times. I do know that the Dale Wilson and this Giordano, out of all the guitars in my room, would never move on. You know, I guess people who watch guitar YouTube stuff see people change gear a lot, and I have done in the past, although much less over the last year or so. And I just know that these two guitars are going to be with me forever, but this gold one in particular is just, yeah. If you did ever catch me out at playing somewhere or wanted to have a jam, this is the guitar I'd be bringing. It's just exceptional. Every detail from the aging to the actual making of it, and I know that Nico has his own secret sauce when it comes to what goes under the hood. The pickups on here, Stewart's P90s are both incredibly sweet and can be, not aggressive is not the right word, but they have the right bite, but with the right thickness. Yeah, I'm yet to try other people's P90s that are as good as these. Yeah, I'm just in love with the thing. Honestly, I'm considering selling 80% of everything else to fund buying one big vintage purchase, whether that would be a Blackguard Telly or some sort of Gibson from the 50s. But the Wilson and this Gold Geo would never move. Anything else is potentially up for grabs, if you're interested in buying. Okay, well, that's my favourite guitar, and I hope you enjoyed that one. And if you do hate heavy relicking, now's the time to let us know. Right, see you on the next one.